So what inspired you to pursue financial independence and FIRE movement?
Like, how are you making that much money right now? I don't know how you're doing what you're doing, but I need to figure it out.
We got into a big old argument in front of her mom about finances and spending, and we've gotten out of control. And what motivated you to be on the show today? So what's next?
With a little health and a little wealth and a lot of love, that's a life that we live. Seuss and Scrubs.
Hello, everybody! Welcome to another episode of Seuss and Scrubs. We talk about a little bit of health, a little bit of wealth. Say it with me.
A lot of
love. That's right. We got a fan. Join with me is Lindsay. So Lindsay actually is a dear friend of mine. She was actually my roommate. If you guys caught the first episode, this was one of my female roommates. And by the end of this episode, you understand why, because she is so cool. So today, we're going to explore a little bit into personal finance, net worth, and fat FIRE. Mm-hmm. So Lindsay is fat FIRE, which I did not know that, by the way, until we go through. You guys know when I do this. When I wear glasses, you guys know math is mathin'. And so I have budgets and net worth. So we're going to do Seuss and Scrubs, financial review with Lindsay, but also more, going to spin us on the head a little bit. And I'll be honest with you, when we first had this conversation, I didn't think about opening it up to people like you, because at first when I was doing this, I didn't know how relatable, this would be. But there's such a stigma around women in finance, and especially when I do all the statistics, and we're 24 episodes in, and we do that, quite a bit with me and Emily, right? Yeah. And Emily says all the time, well, I don't know this about finance, and then all of a sudden her eyes glaze over. And so why don't you take about 3 to 5 minutes, introduce yourself, what do you do, and what motivated you to be on the show today?
Yeah, so I'm Lindsay Lawless. I am 33, grew up in San Diego, California. Only child. Don't hold that against me. I think I'm a good only child. I currently work for a pool equipment manufacturer as a director of digital marketing, and leading a team that manages all things digital websites, digital marketing, and that sort. I am married to David.
Shout out, David.
Yeah. We just had a son named Waylon. He's awesome. He's 5 months old.
That's crazy. Can we pause on that a little bit?
Yeah.
So I put you in my box, kind of not with me, but kind of with me, of never having kids.
I was in that box.
I know.
I was in the...
So what happened?
I'm not having kids. No. No, you know me well enough that everything's planned.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I would say the big thing for me was actually financial. So it's kind of fitting for this conversation. But I thought that in order for me to be in a place to have a child, I wanted to make sure that I was financially in a place that I could provide for my child the same way that my parents provided for me.
Gotcha.
I'm also only having one. So I'm an only child. He's an only child. I do have a 13-year-old stepdaughter, Annalise. She's great.
Hey, Annalise.
So it's great because then I have a babysitter and a baby built in.
So let's explore that a little bit. So, I look at your net worth. I look at your financials, and I feel like you're wired like me. And so... by anyone looking at it, you were fine years ago. So what I'd like to do differently is, you have these other YouTubers and podcasters that are way more famous than me, way more famous than I ever want to be. I'm not trying to do this to be famous. I'm trying to do this to help people. We talked about that. Yeah. But what I really want to do, we do the segment on Seuss and Scrubs, which we haven't launched segments just yet. That's our next season, if you would. And it's Mind and Money Matters. So tell me the psychology for you. Why was that so important to be financially in a place where you thought it's a little extreme than most people? And when we do these spreadsheets, you'll understand why. So,
So growing up, I think this goes back to my upbringing. My parents were very, very frugal. When I tell you that my dad still wears clothes from his 20s and he's now in his 70s or almost 70.
There's frugal and there's, what's your dad's name?
Mark.
Mark. There's frugal and there's Mark.
And Noriko. My mom is the same way. She's very frugal. They both don't spend money on physical things, but they did spend money on my education and experiences. So I was in a private elementary school or K through 12, and I left at middle and went to public from then.
What were the differences between the two, would you say, about public and private?
Well, I didn't learn a curse word until I went to middle school. I was advanced coming out of middle school or coming out of private. And then once I went to middle school, I dropped back down to everybody's level because you're put in the class with everybody. You're learning at that level. So, so I wouldn't say that. I do think that you do get a better education because that's what you're there for. Right. You don't have all the riffraff that you get when you go to a public school.
Yeah, that's being honest.
But public school's fine. I like public school.
Right.
I like both.
But the thing is, I feel like, with public schools, it's a good way to socialize because to me, that is the real world.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, 100%. That really is the melting pot of the world is what you experience. You're going to be exposed to a lot of things. And I believe the more you're exposed to, the more well-rounded you are.
Yeah.
And if you're exposed to struggles, like, you know my story. We talk about it. It's my first episode. Yeah. Like being exposed to so much. Yes, my parents were divorced, but being exposed to just totally two different mindsets, two different lifestyles, but also just financially, just being in that, growing up with our parents. Yeah. I think that's probably the biggest reason why I don't have. Well, I'm one of four. And usually if you have one of four from large families, usually they have large families.
Yeah.
So a lot of us probably don't have children probably for that reason yet.
Yeah.
I say yet. I don't know if my brothers want children. I don't know. I definitely think my sister wants, children. But obviously we want children, right? So it's just interesting.
Comes later sometime. Well, our generation is just coming later, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. But I think it's also by the people you're around. Like some people, as me and Emily talked about, like a lot of her friends are engaged and married like 5-10 years ago. And when we choose the careers that we choose, like that, it does have an impact, right? And I think a lot of your friends, like your circle, are kind of like that.
Pretty much everybody having kids now.
Exactly. So I've told you, so Lindsay does this awesome annual, what is it, like float party?
BYO float party.
Yes. And I told her, I said, we can't go this year because, we're trying to get her, we're not... we're trying to have a family, so we don't know where we're going to be in that point. He's like, who cares? Like, just we're all about to have kids.
There's a bunch of kids there.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just so different how it is. But, parents still get lit. But
yeah. We're just looking forward to the day that we can put them all in like a playpen. All the kids can play together, and then we can be like getting rowdy at the house.
That's what we want to do is like, I think we want to do like some co-op kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like, have like a babysitter, have it at someone's house, so that way people can drop off their kids.
Like a nanny share.
It's cheaper that way. Yeah. Community really does impact.
It helps.
Yeah, it really does. But I know we got it sidetracked. Sorry. So so tell us why like you waited not so long, but waited
longer.
Why was that more important to you?
Yeah. So along with my parents taking me to private school, they also used to take me traveling a lot growing up. So the two things, again, I said education and experiences. So I grew up traveling. I've been to 20, like you, I've been to 20 some countries now, 35 plus states. So,
that's awesome.
And a lot of that was growing up with my parents, but I wanted to be able to make sure that I was financially able to do that, but also still, be saving for retirement.
Right.
Because I think we a lot of times think of, especially with the FIRE movement, you think about what you're going to need in order for your annual expenses. But I don't think anybody really realizes what the annual expenses are going to be with a kid.
Yeah.
So, and that's really why I'm like, I'm not ready yet to like step away from the workforce. And I don't think David is for a while just because he would need something to do.
Right.
But I want to make sure that I have enough in the bank that I can access that also pays for our son. So But my parents didn't have me until they were 35, 34. So I was also in the mindset from the start that I don't need to get married early.
Right.
And I think it's also coming from California. It's more common there to wait in comparison with the South.
The South is like, you're 18, 19, you going to get married?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to have kids.
And I like
20,
both
21.
sides of that. I actually, now that I'm older, I definitely see the benefits of having kids young.
Same.
And then your kids are already can take care of themselves by the time that you, are
my
our
dad
age.
had an 18-year-old my age.
Yeah.
Not just one, but one 17, one that was 16, and my sister. So I completely
it's
understand
crazy.
that.
Like I see both
I could
sides for
imagine that,
sure.
though. Yeah.
I can see it being tough, probably tougher if you have kids earlier,
Right.
because then you have to figure out a
Right.
career. But I guess then in that case, it is easier to go back to start a career
Right.
at that age than it is at our age.
Right.
If I stop working,
Right.
I'm probably out.
Right.
Like I don't think I'm going back if I'm out.
Right,
So
right.
I have to be really committed to that point, and
Exactly.
then come up with other income sources if I am not gonna go back.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so, okay. So thanks for sharing your background and all that. So guys, yes, if you are watching in the channel, I am pulling up my laptop. So I have a very specific guide I want to follow here. And so, so let's talk about your income levels. So, and first thing I want to say is I really love the transparency. So what I'm trying to do on this is to provide as much transparency as possible. There's no smoke and mirrors here. What you see is what you get. And Lindsay has graciously agreed to that. If you guys are just coming off from the last episode, so we're in season 4, so we're doing things a little bit differently here. So Chase was my last guest, and quite a grilling, but it was tough love to help him. It generally was to help him. So Lindsay has pretty much almost hit her fat fire. I don't know what your fat fire number is, but she has a net worth of $2.5 million before the age of 40. And not just her husband David, but her. They come pretty tough together. And so that is really, really impressive. And, I follow you on Instagram and Facebook and all that. And you guys have this lifestyle. You're always on the water and always on this thing, and so I'm envious of that, because I think that's something that I would love to enjoy life a little bit more, because I think I work too much. But it's like business is
You
my
always
hobby.
have.
I always have, but business is my hobby. It always has been my hobby. So yeah. So anything to say about that?
I mean, it's kind of crazy. So you and I started living together almost 12 years ago.
Platonically.
So 11, platonically.
She's married and I'm married.
I was a roommate.
She was a roommate.
Back in 2012, starting in 2012. At that point in time, guess what my salary was?
30,000? 40?
Yeah, close.
Really?
$35,000 is what I moved to North Carolina, and that was my starting salary then.
Yeah, why did you choose North Carolina? I never got that.
So I got offered a job that offered me 10 different cities, and I got to pick my top 3. Nashville was my first pick, followed by Charlotte and a couple others.
So you always love the South, it sounds like. Why?
I came on a road trip out to, I'd never gotten this far, actually. I had gone to Arkansas and Missouri.
Missouri.
But I really loved, I don't know, was it the sweet tea? I came out and I just really loved the culture.
Southern culture.
I liked the food. Yes. I liked the outdoors of the
Yeah.
South. And I hadn't even made it really all the way across
I thought you
the
say the
Carolinas.
Southern guys that you liked, or maybe with that. Was,
Maybe.
And then, like the Southern charm versus like the country guys.
It was just different. And I didn't want a big city. Mind you, here we are, and Charlotte's grown crazy in the last
crazy.
12 years. But
Exactly.
So I put Nashville on top of my list. Second was Charlotte. Nashville was already taken before I even really could submit that list. So Charlotte ended up being my first pick, and then they gave it to me. So I relocated
That's crazy
here.
because Nashville, think about how different your life would be.
Oh, completely different.
So different. There's good water up there too, by the way.
I still love Nashville. I like going on trips.
Same.
I don't know that I'd want to live in Nashville.
Yeah.
I prefer Charlotte.
Yeah.
For sure.
I try to go to Nashville like once a year. I love it that much.
Yeah.
We're big country music people,
Yeah.
so we like that.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to pursue financial independence and fire movement?
So my mom was an accountant for Sony when I was growing up. So she was always the one that managed the money. My dad just gave it to her.
Interesting. So you come
my mom
from
made the money.
Women. Okay, so women in finance. This is it right here. No, I love that. So that's a role model.
Yeah. And I think that's what also opened me up to being completely fine with being the bread maker. Like, it's not something to be and have a negative connotation from a man's perspective.
Yeah.
And I think that is one thing that had originally made it kind of hard to find somebody that would be a good match for me.
Right.
Because I was always fine with people making less than me.
Right. Which you make more than David.
Yeah, I do. Although he tries to catch up, and every time he gets close, I get a new job.
That's
That's
good competition, though.
It is good competition. We keep it healthy in that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always dated people that made less than me.
How does he feel about that though? Like making less than you? We'll talk about net worth in a second because, like, the man makes it up there.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's got the net worth for
sure
more than I do.
Right.
But I think even if he didn't have that, I don't think he'd have any problem with it because it's us building each other up to,
I love that.
build the empire together rather than one person doing all the work.
Yeah.
And that's not how I think of it either. I don't think that I'm doing all the work. I think we're doing the same hard work.
Yeah.
It's just
doing life together.
some people might not get paid as much in different industries and whatnot. So
yeah. Well, I talk about this a lot just to hang on that topic because I think this is really relatable. So I talk about that a lot with Emily's friends. And obviously, Emily's a doctor, right? High earner. Most doctors are high earners, right? I'm still the breadwinner. Love that. But a lot of people in her circle, are single, doctor, female doctors, and usually even if the woman makes money, there's a certain expectation about like family roles. I'm just saying that. I'm not saying that I believe that, but there usually is. And so in this example, they were talking about how difficult it is to find, a man that's comfortable with a high earning woman, and that's kind of the norm. I'm not saying anything new here, but I think that the fact that, dating has probably been difficult for you.
I mean, if they weren't okay with it, they weren't okay with it. And I'm like, well, that's on you. It almost was worse. It was more important for me to find somebody that was, even if they didn't have a huge salary, that they cared about finance, right?
So that was important. That's the deal breaker.
Yeah.
For Lindsay. I can still call you Lindsay Lawless. Like,
I am still Lindsay Lawless.
That's such a cool last name, though. Lindsay Lawless White. Is that it?
It's just Lindsay Lawless.
Oh, sorry, David.
David.
So yeah.
I said no. Waylon got White.
Waylon got White, but Lindsay did not get David's last name.
I kept Lawless.
Yeah, Lindsay is a boss. That's just, if you know her personality, that's very much Lindsay.
Again, like finding somebody that's okay with me keeping my last name was also up there on the list with finance. But
yeah.
But I think somebody who cares enough that they actually have the same end goals, right? They want to retire early. They don't want to work forever. And I think I told you this before the show, but that was the reason why I had broken up with my ex prior to that. Because, yeah.
Name was my name.
Yeah, same name.
Woo!
But he just had no care in the world. And in his mind, he was like, I'm just going to work till I'm dead. Why would I want to retire? And I was like, we're not going the same place.
Right.
Like maybe I'm sure that's probably changed now that he's become more of an adult than we were at that point. Like we were still kids basically.
Right. And you didn't have time to wait until.
No.
Because you've been there since.
I've been working towards this early.
Since 15, you told me
I was 11.
Investing? 11? Oh, wow. I was 15 when I started investing.
So my mom and dad started a family business when I was 11. We had an orchard and we sold avocados. So we had 400 avocado trees in San
You
Diego.
sold avocados in California.
Sold avocados at the farmer's market.
Could you be more Californian?
I know.
Californian, is that how you say
Hey,
it?
California avocados are better than the Mexican avocados. I'm just saying.
Yes. Although I went to Chile and that climate is very similar.
Oh, yeah.
It had like a lot of wine and avocados. Like, oh God, this feels like California.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the weather's the same.
coast.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started working at the farmer's market selling avocados, handing out samples. My girlfriend, Carly, love you, girl. She and I would rollerblade around this farmer's market with like samples of avocado and citrus, because we also had oranges and whatnot. And then we go on coffee runs for people. So that's when I started my Roth IRA, was when I was 11. Because I had a salary. So every single year, my mom was telling me, like, we max out your Roth IRA with the salary that you made selling avocados. And
How'd you feel about it then? Like, did you want the money now to go do your thing?
No, I think my mom had already ingrained in me, like, savings. She gave me this wallet at some point
your
in time.
ethnicity, I'm sorry, I got to,
Yeah.
you're an ethnicity,
I'm half Japanese.
yes.
My mom is Japanese, so it kind of fits. Like, this is tiger mom mode here.
Right. And I just came from Japan, and it's, again, Japan's my number one country, by the way. We'll talk about that off camera.
The food is amazing.
Yeah.
But I had this wallet when I was a kid that was my savings wallet. And I distinctly remember that I would always put my birthday money and whatnot in there. It was almost like before I got my bank account. And one time my mom asked me for some change, and I was like, it's in my savings wallet. And she was like, I can't argue with you there. Like, I taught you to save that money. I can't ask you for any of it out of there.
Right.
Especially when I was already saying, like, no, it's mine.
Right.
So I
Wow.
learned really early to save money for sure. And I
Go
was,
mom.
yeah, she did a good job.
So you see, I would say respecting your parents to really teach you, like,
Yeah.
financial literacy.
Very early. And I think it's important for our generation, especially to do that with our kids, because it's going to be tough.
It's going to be harder.
It was tough for us in comparison with our parents, but it's
Right.
going to be even tougher.
Yeah, because like we did a whole episode on, how long kids are living, like up to 25 is normal now.
Yeah.
But it's so expensive to go out on your own and rent and mortgage and, a lot of, Gen Zers, Millennials, Gen Zers and whatever that group is.
We're millennials.
Yeah, we're millennials.
So
You're
Gen
right.
Z.
Are we elder millennials? Maybe I am.
I think they call them geriatric. It's geriatric millennials, but I think you have to be over 40 for that.
Okay,
I think
well, I'm
you
not there
might
yet.
You may be okay.
Yeah.
I think you're just
If I
a
should look like
millennial.
this at 40, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I
It's
don't have.
that skincare routine.
It just started. I want to keep it up. That's just kind of my new thing. But when you're married to a doctor, there's a lot of benefits there.
There
So.
definitely are. Yeah, I think it's been interesting starting that early to have a Roth IRA, and then as I worked every single year, my mom would say, "Hey, did you max it out? Did you max it? You have till April. Like, max it out."
That's awesome.
And
Even
the max
now.
has gone up every year. Well,
Was it 7,000?
up until I hit the income max, I was really sad. So if I can tell,
don't do a backdoor.
I still backed, but
Yeah.
it's not the same.
Yeah.
So that is my one piece of advice to anybody who's just thinking about getting into like saving for retirement is if your income is below the income maximum for a Roth IRA, you have zero excuse not to be maxing that out every
Right.
year.
Right.
Like, I remember telling one of my girlfriends when I was at Lowe's, I was like, yeah, at the time, I think it was $5,000 max. I think it's 7 something now.
Which is what, like, I don't know, a few $100 every time you get paid.
Yeah. If that.
Right.
Depending on like when you get paid. And one of my girlfriends was like, that's a lot to save every year. I was like, divide it up and just pop it in there.
Exactly.
And when you get your bonus, pop it in there. Like,
right.
don't.
And my thing is bonuses are usually taxed higher.
Yeah.
And so you're definitely incentivized.
Yeah.
Like taxes are a huge thing, especially with the Roth. Roth is
Yeah.
so sexy because.
I mean, it's after tax.
Exactly.
So
and when you pull that money
make
out.
all this money, and then
It's
when I'm in
yours.
retirement, I'm not going to pay tax on that, which
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah.
Assuming I, pull it out at the right time.
Right. Pull it out at the right time is the key, right? So you shared some of your background, so I'm going to keep going here. So what are the key strategies or investments that helped you build your wealth? But actually, before we jump into that, I don't think we dove deeper into your financial situation, and you give me complete freedom here.
You're good to go.
All right, so we're looking at your budget here. So you make about almost $9,000 a month. This is take-home pay after taxes, and then your husband makes $6,000. So you guys have a combined income of $15,000 almost. You take home. So you guys have pretty healthy income that you take home, which y'all should be proud of that. Your housing is at $2,500, which you're at 16%. I say people should be below 37%, and you're kicking that in the face. So nicely done.
I'm telling you, timing on housing,
know.
though. Everything is timing with housing. Guess our interest rate.
Well, I went to your house, so I'm probably not fair at like 2-something%.
2.25.
That's what this house is.
I'm telling you.
Insane.
I'm stuck with that house forever because I can't. That's free money.
That's what I tell people too.
So.
And that time is you seized. So I had this quote that I put on my Instagram. Hopefully you follow. And it says something about when there is a golden opportunity, put your bucket out and let that mofo fill up. And I did. And we have 3 houses. The most I've earned in mine, I got done well in the markets and things like that.
Yeah.
But real estate, I kicked everyone's ass in
Yeah.
that. I really have.
I definitely wish that, looking back, I mean, hindsight's 2020, I would have bought way more
I know.
at that rate. We would have just gone on a spending spree and bought everything we would have qualified for back at that 2% range, under
Right.
3%. But, it still worked in our favor because we have a
Right.
ton of equity in the house, and I had equity in the house I sold prior to buying that one.
Right.
And that's why I have to level set with a lot of people that are like, how do you have this net worth? I was like, part of that is timing.
Yeah.
I can't say that.
But you're financial literate though, Lindsay.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. It's not hard to be financial literate. And this is what I tell people, and I'm quoting Cody Sanchez, which is one of my favorite business person, not just female, business person. And she says it best. In financial services, just like the medical industry, there's a moat around us. And we have all this jargon like interest rate and Roth, 401k, and mega backdoor,
Yeah.
Roth, ETFs, options, FX. I can keep going on. Cryptocurrency, all this stuff. These terms are just terms.
Yeah.
They're just like, look them in the face. Like, I know what you mean, but don't be intimidated by that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that comes with financial literacy.
Yeah.
What's your mom's name?
Noriko.
Noriko. Shout out to you, Noriko. You did good on this one. So I'm looking through your expenses. So looks like your total combined expenses is about $10,000, which is about 70%. So most of that is from your housing, which you're below the percentage. Daycare, it's $866, which is so crazy to me. Daycare
that's
has changed. Yeah, that is cheap, actually, because
Like, we go to a daycare at a church, and luckily it's nearby and we were able to get into, but most daycares in Charlotte are going
$1,500.
yeah,
every 2 weeks.
12 to
Yeah.
15
Yeah.
a month at least.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think most of them start at $350 to $500 a week.
Phew.
And they go by weeks. I'm
Right.
like, you're doing that just to mess with people, because just give us your monthly.
Right.
Like, who bills they don't bill on a weekly basis.
That's insane.
But yeah,
And
childcare is insane.
It is insane. And one thing about what my employer does is you're allowed to pay that, and through like just like our commuter benefits,
Okay.
like you pay that through, and then that way you're not taxed on that money, which is really, really nice.
That's nice.
So you do have a pretty healthy boat payment of
Yep.
$600. Your entertainment is $1,500 a month, which is about 10%, which is not bad actually. Your food is at 10%. I keep food about 20%. So you guys are again kicking that in the face. These are the ratios that I have.
Yeah.
And if you guys care about the spreadsheet, let me know. I built the spreadsheet. Was it pretty easy to use?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like I've been using this for 12, 15 years. Go to our website, download it, do your budget. It starts with your budget. Starts with your expenses. Decompose those so you know what you're spending. It should be a guessing game at the end of the month. Right, Lindsay?
Yeah.
Right? And so you're saving about $5,000 a month is what's left over. But let's really get to your net worth. So let's jump into this.
I honestly,
No disclaimers.
No, I'm not. I normally don't go as detailed into my net worth. Like I just kind of average out. I look at I add my mortgage versus my house, boat payment, but I don't usually go to this detail in most of my net worth calculations. So honestly, I filled it out and I was like, oh shit.
But aren't you glad you did?
That's
though?
good. Yeah. Like I'm not mad. I filled it out. I'm glad that we know where we're at.
You're an anomaly, though. Most people who do this in the budgets, and most people do their net worth, they're like, "Oh, I'm not where I want to be." So you did this, and it was valuable, right? And would you tell the people?
I would say definitely fill it out.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people even really know what net worth is, though, right? Because people are so focused on salary.
How insane is that, though, to me? Like my thing is that you can't just have one side of the equation. Oh, I make good money, or hey, I'm paying my bills. What is it? 1,000-Pound Sisters. I love them. So I'm grown. My bills are paid. I pay my bills. But at the end of the day, that is true. But the other side of the equation is net worth.
Yeah.
And so it's so important to do both. So you guys have pretty healthy amounts of cash in your
investment accounts.
In your investment accounts. So your savings account, your checking account. So your savings account, are you guys doing a high yield?
Yeah, I'm a little bad about savings accounts.
Yeah.
So I hate having a ton of accounts. It's like a personal thing of having multiple logins and whatnot. So I tend to just save mine in my brokerage as cash, and then I invest it when it builds up to a point where I see the market's like down one day.
Yeah.
Plus I have automatic investments coming out of there.
Right.
But then I always have that cash in there.
Right.
David does have a separate savings account, high yield savings.
Yeah. Okay, good. So do y'all believe in having emergency funds though?
100%.
Good.
At least 6 months.
Good. That's what we have.
I-
Plus, we're actually way too aggressive with ours.
I don't think I've ever told anybody or had less than 20K that I could liquidate next day or was liquid immediately.
That's smart.
At any point in time.
That's smart.
Because you never know.
You never know.
Like at one point in time, I was between jobs and had to support myself during that time frame,
Right.
but I didn't want to have to sell any of my investments.
Exactly. You don't want to do that.
I'm like, I need to be able to have that backup. So I definitely encourage everybody to have
Yeah.
a
And off
savings.
camera, like when I did the review with Chase,
Yep.
I told him that you should keep double the amount of your expenses into your checking account. And when your checking account hits that number, guess how much money you have in your account? 0. So, for example, our monthly expense is a lot higher than y'all's. I think it's like $17,000, but I have multiple businesses and things like that. So we keep about double in that for our checking account. So we're at $35,000. We're at $0. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, Em, like we are broke. Like, and she's like, why we're not right? I said, yes, we are. We can't. It's a mental game.
Yeah.
But that's a good psychology. That's what I do. I do recommend that. Keep 2 times expenses into your checking account, but have a 3-month emergency fund starting out. And then I have very specific steps in my ebook that I think that you can, don't keep money on the table. I even told my friend Chase to stop contributing to all his accounts. Do the emergency fund first.
Yeah.
And then break it down like that because he has to dig out.
Yeah.
That's what I recommend. So you guys have a pretty healthy $75,000 of just liquid cash.
Yep.
I would encourage you though. I know you don't like multiple accounts.
I know.
That's your limiting belief.
I know. It's just
High yield
sitting
savings
there.
account.
I could be making like 5% right now.
Yes, exactly. So I get a check for like $300-$400 a month, not doing anything.
Yeah.
And it grows my emergency. And when I get a certain amount of money, I just take that money and then reinvest it.
Yeah.
So you guys are doing very, very well there. You guys have $2 million in your investments accounts. So you have $600,000 and your husband has $1.1 million. And then you guys have a joint one of $25,000, it looks like. So let's just take a minute here. So first, we understand why you have your healthy investment because you started so young.
Yep.
So tell me more about David. And he's obviously you're a higher earner than he is. How do you accumulate $1.1 million in his investment account?
Yeah, so his story is a little interesting. He So my college was paid for, but by my parents. Thank you,
So
Noriko Mark.
you had a head start. So
I had a head start
I want
from
to
that
tell people that
perspective.
Lindsay, I'm not saying
100%.
Yeah, and she acknowledges that.
Yeah. I hope to do the same thing for Waylon for sure. David went the military route. So his first year of college was paid through a basketball scholarship. So he had a full ride through basketball. And then after a year of college, he's like, I don't know what I want to do. I'm going to go to the military. So he went Army. And so his college, he got out and did this smart thing and went use the VA to pay his degree.
Right.
So he is military, and during that time frame, didn't spend any money, and all of his money went into an investment account that his family member managed for him, who is a financial advisor. So all of the money that he would have spent, which I will say a lot of military families have. Well, at that age, you're 18, you're spending that.
You're spending that.
You're coming back from overseas and you're
Right.
buying a new car.
Right.
You're buying a house you can't afford the
Right.
insurance on every year,
Right.
the taxes.
And David did not do
David
that.
didn't do that. He
Where is he
had
getting
it all
that from?
invested.
Like, where is he drawing that inspiration from? That's incredible.
So I think it was because his uncle was a financial advisor, and he's like, "I'm going to take that." Like,
What's his name?
David's financial advisor. I don't even know his uncle's name.
I was going to shout him
Remember
out
his
because
name.
that's awesome.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right.
He did a good job, like keeping David only touching the money that he made. And I think that was David's mindset from that point, is he had all this money in the bank from the time that his whole salary when he was in the military.
Yeah. And when you live in the military, you can live for free pretty much.
Yeah. Your food's paid for.
Yeah. And so he
Everything's
did
paid
that.
for.
It
Yeah.
sounds like. Wow.
And then he just, whenever he did spend any, he was just spending his gains.
Right.
And he'd have to ask. The good thing is he'd have to ask his uncle for that money.
I love it.
So it gives a little bit of a barrier
job,
to just
Uncle.
having cash in front of you.
Right.
And I think David still uses that today, is like, as long as I don't see the cash sitting there, I'm not
Right.
going to spend it.
Right.
And
So is David a spender? Is that what you're trying to get at?
he likes to buy things.
Yeah, he likes to buy things.
He likes to buy toys.
But the thing is, I looked
I mean,
at
the
y'all's...
boat is a toy.
Yeah.
So
But y'all have no loans. That's one thing I'm looking
Yeah.
at here. I haven't gotten to just yet. But no, that's awesome. I think that's, it can be done. And,
Yeah.
I would say this a lot. Like, he lived like no one else to be like no one else.
Yeah.
And he's really, like, he's not even 40 yet. You're not even 40 yet. And you guys are very much fat
Yeah.
buyer. I think you're about
I
2
will-
million away, but you're easily going to get there because your first million's the hardest.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will add that, like, asterisk, like, David's dad passed away when he was 1. So he actually inherited some property from his grandmother, because he would have been the next. So I would say probably about 500,000 of his investments would have been inherited.
Yeah.
And we've talked to people about that. They're like, well, you got that money because of your inheritance. He's like, I would give that back if I could have my dad.
100%.
So
100%.
I think
the thing is that, Lindsay, I don't want to diminish this. Like
Yeah.
this is where it can be unrelatable to some people because a lot of people don't have head starts. A lot of people won't get inheritances.
Yeah.
A lot of people won't have that.
100%.
But I think the fact that he didn't blow this money,
Yeah.
he was financially literate and he
Yeah.
got it from his uncle. The thing is, there's 2 things I knew you were going to hit on today. It starts with your family unit.
Yeah.
And what you're exposed to. So parents out there, listen, and people out there who may be older, that's fine. There's always an opportunity to be financially literate. Always.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you guys were around that, it has changed y'all's life.
100%,
Y'all never
yeah.
have to worry about money
No.
based upon what I'm seeing here.
Yeah.
That is...
As long as I keep David from buying all the toys. But yeah.
Well,
He-
yeah, but David's very lucky because I feel like, first of all, kudos to you because I am the head of the household as far as finances. And so let's go on a tangent. Can we go on a tangent? Mm-hmm. All right. So now my wife is like, listen, like she's not on the show tonight. She is not a heavy spender. She actually is very, responsible most of the time. But when we had 2 high incomes and we're working through things and we're still spending like we have 2 high income. So me and my wife, like she's going to hate this, but I'm going to be 100% real. We got into a big old argument in front of her mom about finances and spending. And we've gotten out of control. And I told her, like, we got to watch our spending. We got to watch our spending. Every single month, I make it work. And I'm going to be honest, and I'm telling you this in a safe space.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I make it work. So she doesn't know what I'm feeling, what I'm stressing. I'm pulling money here, pulling money there. I'm not going to pull money from our savings account. I'm not going to pull money from our investments because we cannot control our spending.
Yeah.
Pardon my language. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Is that relatable to you?
100%.
So how do you rein that in?
So, and
I'm seeking advice from you.
so it was a really interesting, I think, initial kind of experience in a relationship because I was kind of feeling David out for his spending to see what he was valuing.
You're like that though. You're an observer.
I'm an observer.
You sit in the corner. I know you. You're like over there, like they're like this, they're like that. I know you. But
What you doing over there?
Yeah, I'm the same way though. But I'm more like you're doing that. But you're over there watching. You're smarter than me. You're like, what's going on with that?
Yeah, I just want to see what we're spending money on and where we're taking money from and why we're buying it for the price that we're paying.
The psychology of
I
it.
will say David has been really, really lucky with cars. Like he bought a Jeep and then sold it for 5 years later or 3 years later for the same, if not a couple grand more than he bought it for. And then
cars are insane. Like no one saw that.
And these days are even crazier. But even early on, he was really good at buying. Mind you, he had like a $3,000 car when he was out of the military. So I'm not saying he's one of those people that went and bought the most they could afford. He is mostly financially smart about the cars that he buys. But I'm just saying that's kind of like the toys he likes are cars. We have a go-kart. We have a boat.
Yep.
He's on the hustle, she's on the grind. There's no time to kill. For saving lives and new deadlines, and there's some holes to fill. With a little help and a little wealth and a lot of love. That's a life that we live. Seuss and Scrubs.